session of the growth and scaling sessions. We've got some amazing guests in the green room, standing by, waiting to talk to all of you.
In today's world, there's more and more opportunity to have a hybrid in between both of those.
Your job isn't to get into the industry to get rich. Your job is to get into the industry to support and provide the best service you can.
Listen, discover, explore. I mean, it's exactly what I tell the brands that we open retail stores for, right?
Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Growth and Scaling Sessions. I am so excited to be here today, and I've got some awesome guests sitting in the green room, ready to pop in at any given moment. Yeah, we're not going to surprise you that much, but we will get them in here in just a second. And we're excited today to talk about a topic that is absolutely essential for everyone trying to go and scale their business right now, and that is sales systems, sales processes. What is going on in your business? I cannot wait to get a lot of interaction with you from the audience to find out what is going on with your sales systems, what's working, what's not working. To be honest, I would say the majority of businesses out there get stuck in their revenue because they have poor sales systems, myself included. Every time I launch a new company, the last thing, for whatever reason, that gets the most focus is my sales systems. It's just something you always put off. It's product development. It's trying to make sure that there's a fit with your potential audience and your potential avatars. But for some reason, the sales system gets lost in the mix of things, and then sales suck. If you're in that boat, this episode is for you. And I know for a fact that many of you are in this boat. Everyone's sales systems could use a little overhaul. So that is the topic today. I want to point out today's episode is sponsored by Captain's Council. If you're a CEO looking for some community, looking for other founders and operators who are just like you, trying to figure out what their next steps are to growth and scaling, chances are you need a peer community. Why not join a peer network of peer advisors, meaning other CEOs and founders who are actively running businesses to help advise you in your business? That's what the Captain's Council is all about. With that being said, let's move into the topic. We're going to introduce our guests very briefly. As I bring them in, Garrick Tate, thank you so much for being here. And Chip Royce, talk to us, guys. What about sales systems? Chip, you're an advisor on this stuff. You help people dive into their niches. What is going on with sales systems you're seeing right now?
I'm thinking it's two things. Great to be here, Todd. The key thing first is that I think that they missed the strategic part because they need to make revenue, and they start making mistakes on how they've organized and how they're approaching everything. And then on the tactical side is I don't think they quite understand their customer, the journey they need to buy, and as a result, they force selling on them instead of helping them buy, which is a fantastic way to, if you can get them to buy, for them to be in a positive mindset and for everything to happen naturally.
I love that point. Garrick, he's talking about making a natural sale. He's talking about not forcing the sale on them, but making a product, I guess. Is that what you're saying, Chip? Is it the product needs to be something they need or want?
I think it's more about understanding everything from what their problem is, how they want to buy it, how they want to research it, and how you facilitate that information transfer, especially in today's internet-enabled world, everything that's come from the past 30 years of digital transformation, right? Rather than saying, I've got the internet as a tool and you must want this, so buy it.
You must want this. Garrick, how does that work with AI? Because I know your background is very specific with AI. What do you feel like that, what Chip's talking about? How does that relate to you?
Well, I want to comment on one thing that Chip's saying here, which I think Daniel Pink talks about this in his book, To Sell is Human, or I believe that's the title, which is this idea that the information arbitrage between buyers and sellers is shrinking. It's not totally zero, but it's way lower than it's ever been, which basically means that the age of bamboozling your prospect and you know things that they don't. That era is really not here. Maybe in a few industries if you're really cutting edge or there's really a lot of opaqueness. But that gap is closing more and more, and for most industries has already closed so immensely that you really can't fake it till you make it. You need to make sure that you're in a position to really be solving their problems, because buyers are savvier now than ever, and that's means that the quality has to be there.
So snake oil isn't quite as effective as it used to be. Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly right. And I think that
so
the
yeah,
way
go ahead.
AI leads into this is right now we're in a really interesting time where it's kind of a wild west with a lot of these tools, where we're very much at the ground floor. People don't know about a lot of these tools beyond just ChatGPT. I think everyone has probably entered in ChatGPT, hey, can you write a sales letter for this, or write a prospect email for that, on kind of one and done things, or adding them maybe a little more habitually into their workflow. But there's entire suite of tools that have been coming out this year that I don't think people are fully aware of. And we're in a very interesting point of time where it's kind of like a wild west. So I think that a lot of sales systems are going to be disrupted positively with them.
Now, Garrick, you're young enough. I think Chip and I can both talk to the fact that we remember when the internet came out and everyone was talking about, what's this internet thing going to do to business?
Yes, sir.
You remember that, Chip? Those were some crazy times. And it was wild, wild west. And there were crazy valuations and companies were selling for millions of dollars that did nothing except have a website that was active and present. And Chip, you mentioned just a second ago about sales has changed in that we have a much more savvy buyer. We have people who are not, I guess, Garrick, you were saying the same thing. They're more educated. They have more information at their tips. What are we missing? What kind of things are working and what kind of things are missing when we talk sales and sales systems and trying to approach our customers who are much smarter than they've ever been in the history of buying?
So I think the first thing is we're using automation many times, not always, but many times to eliminate the bad stuff. And I think that's one of the cool things that AI brings, right? Is how can I take away the drudgery of some people's jobs and use smarter automation so that people, can get the right data at their hands. So if they're, let's say they're on a sales team, they can start interacting with customers two ways, right? Interact with more people, and two, interact with them in a genuine way because you know what drives them. I think the other drawback, though, is sort of the unintended consequence of that. And that is that we've almost over automated and took people out of certain key steps by not making them available for those that would prefer to interact with a person. And when they do, they're not, I don't think, always properly trained to be able to interact in, again, that non-salesy way. That way is like, hey, Garrick, I just want to help you. What would it take? And if I understand that you're not the right customer, that's okay. I'll tell you, because it's better for me and my business in the long run.
I love that. Now, Chip, you own a company, Flywheel Advisors. You tell us a little bit about how you help people solve this problem, because I know that you do a lot of things to help people with sales flow and processes and things like that in their business. Tell us a little bit about what that is.
Yeah, so my primary work is to work with companies that have really unique technology or products and services, and they sell to really complex industries, whether it's government or unique manufacturing, or even companies, but solving really specific problems in their companies, not like a Dropbox that says, hey, everybody needs to store files. Right. And I help them figure out what are those key sort of buttons to grow revenue. And one of the places that I specialize in is that I spent the past 30 years building marketing and sales partnerships and distribution channels for a variety of successful companies. And often that's one of the things that companies overlook is they go direct, and they don't realize that they could build a parallel sales and marketing capability through partners that gives them a lot more leverage and can really boost their business.
I love that. I love that. I think Garrick's smiling on purpose because, there are so many people that forget that step and they think that it all has to originate from them. Garrick, have you been able to leverage partnerships in a way you've been able to grow your business with that, or what drew the smile there?
I think that partnerships are the best way for most boutique businesses to be getting clients. If you are very narrow
Early.
in what you're very early or very esoteric in your offering, then it's going to often be that you're going to find the people you need through relationships, through a network of partners. And in pretty much every business that I've been in the channel, whether it's B2C or B2B, we've always treated it like a B2B outreach campaign to find either the affiliates or the distribution partners in order to get our message out there. So that's
Right.
very near and dear to my heart.
Right. Now, I got to tell you, I think all three of us can honestly say that probably none of the three of us are the quote unquote industry leader, setting the pace, setting the trend for our industries at this very moment in time. With that being said, that's not an insult. What that means is we have an opportunity to leverage other people's impact and influence on the communities that we're trying to serve. And Chip, I think that's where you're really pointing at, right? Is how do we, as someone trying to build and grow, leverage those relationships? And if we don't have those relationships, how do those things start to build so that we can leverage them and engage them in a way that we can take other people's influence and drive it towards new traffic, towards our sales operations?
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head there, Todd, is that we don't know everything. And the customers we're selling to today aren't necessarily the customers that are going to be around tomorrow and 2 years from now as things evolve. So what I love about the partnership setup is that if you're listening, and this comes back to everything we've been saying about sales, et cetera, but if you're listening and can strike the relationships where you can look behind the curtain, I think is a good way of saying it.
Right.
And
right.
know what their customers are saying through your partner channels or what have you.
Right.
It helps inform things. So case in point, companies I've worked with, and this is what I love about the sophisticated products, is that often the technology can do one thing over here, right? It might give you fresh breath, but it might have nutritional value over here, right? I'm making this up. You get the point. And the fresh breath is great for the dental industry. The nutritional value is great for the medical industry. Both are going to buy differently potentially. You may even package the product differently. But think about what that can do to create more options for a business rather than say, I make fresh breath for dental. That's it, right? And if this doesn't work, what do I do?
Love that. I love that. That's a great answer to the question, because I think that, as we start to leverage, those other relationships in different verticals or different aspects of the vertical, the biggest thing we have to focus on as business owners is who do we actually want to work with? And once we determine who we actually want to work with, because, Chip, you may have a solution that is available. It could work for anybody, but specific people you like to work with the most. And so you've got to target and niche down, find out who that avatar is before you start leveraging networks and available people who might be promoting you. You don't want to be promoted to the wrong audience, right?
Yeah.
So Garrick, who are you targeting? And give us a little brief bio on what your company does, because I don't think we've given that enough of a fair shake here. A fair shake. What are you guys up to at Valhalla, and how do you help clients build through AI what you're trying to help them do?
Yeah. So what we do is we get businesses acquired at higher valuations with AI development, with hiring elite talent and making sure you have a dream team to build out that AI in your company. And then we add in operational automation empowered by that AI. The process starts with just breaking down your entire sales process, exactly what we're talking about today. What is your process of turning prospects, finding prospects, converting them throughout every step of your funnel, and then thinking and finding the areas where bottlenecks occur, where a lot of errors happen, or where there's just not throughput when there should be, and then seeing how we can add automation and attack that problem. Not he who has a hammer sees the whole world as a nail, not saying where can we add AI, but only targeting the area where it's actually going to hit your bottom line. So that's the short version.
I love that's a great abbreviation, actually, of what you do. I happen to, we chatted briefly before we started this live about some key functions of a sales system and what needs to be in there.
Mhm.
And I just want to touch on that because I do believe the rest of the conversation should be guided towards how can we help other companies solve these parts of their sales flow. You've got to have at least these 5 pieces. And for some people, they have a very complex sales system. For others, it's very, very brief. And it's like, hey, there's someone that commented. I'm just going to go grab them and try and wring their neck till they buy. Those are the 2 extremes. But I think that every sales system needs to include prospecting, some kind of lead qualifying. There needs to be some type of sales presentation where we're giving them the information, and then a way or methodology to object the objections, to handle the objections, and there's got to be closed. Those 5 pieces are pretty much relevant in everybody's business. There's not a single person listening to this that doesn't engage in all 5 of these activities in some way, shape, and form. So with that in mind, Garrett, tell us a little bit about where you see the biggest problems as you go in to help one of your clients create these automated, assistants in that process. What are some of the big mistakes that you're seeing?
I think that it depends on where they're at inside of their business process. Obviously, some they really just need more leads, and then others they just need to do a better job of filtering the leads that they have and getting higher quality leads. If you're
right,
assuming that you're starting off with the first problem, which I think most businesses are going to have at some point in their cycle, prospecting, getting just more leads into your funnel. Some fantastic tools that are really leveraging AI, because people, I think now when they're thinking about AI, they're just thinking like ChatGPT and I use that inside of my workflow. But there's so many tools out there that have come out. Inside of our sales process, we use a mixture of Phantom Buster, which is a fantastic tool for scraping people's LinkedIn so that you have all the data that's available on their profile to feed into other stages of your funnel. And then also browse.ai for scraping databases in order to gather contact info.
Love it.
Hunter.
Yeah.
I'm writing all these down, by the way. Thanks, Garrett. This is really good.
Right, Chip?
Yeah.
Hey, and by the way, for those listening, if you are using specific tools you think we all should have in our toolbox, throw it in the chat below. We'd love it. We'd love to hype this up a little bit. This audience is what drives these conversations, and these conversations are driven towards helping the audience. So let's help each other out here. Throw some comments below if there's something you want to ask any of us, but also let us know what kind of AI tools are you guys using to help drive your sales,
Garrett,
because this is a huge deal.
Have you come across something called Pi.ai?
No. Is that Hey Pi when it's more of a personality?
So it's this neat personality conversationalist AI. And so just to share one of because I'm not an AI heavy guy, but I'm using it selectively when I think you can get you something differentiated or differentiate perspective, because I think perspectives, might have alluded to earlier, is people get locked in one way of looking at it, and how do you get them to open up in a non-threatening way? And Pi was incredible, because case in point, I was about to speak to a client, and it actually lets you rehearse conversations. But what's good is in a non-threatening way, we'll point out, say, hey, I heard you say this. This is really good. So positive reinforcement.
Interesting.
So let's go back to the sales process, right? And I don't care really what stage it's in, depending on, granted, if all your prospecting is automated, then, there's not a human element. But what if someone's cold calling? How do you build out their skills, get them more breadth, or understand maybe the 3 things that a customer might key in on, and being able to rehearse and train for the job, right?
Having your own sales trainer right there.
Calling, I think this is a great way to warm up.
Actually,
that's fantastic.
That very tool is one that we almost started was a startup that we were about to start up, looking for investors in, and we found a tool called Dialpad that has been around for a few
Right.
years.
Yeah.
But they're a really interesting tool that listens to your conversations in real time, and then they add in
you
suggestions on the
feedback.
side based on the transcript.
Is that right? I didn't know they added that. That's a really cool add-on, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that
Huh.
that they're probably not where they need to be to corner the market, but they have a first mover's advantage. I think a few other startups are going to jump into that space as well. I think there's for people who want to experience that, though, in its current state, I would definitely recommend Dialpad. I think there's a lot of disruption that AI can bring into the space beyond just prospecting, but also
Right.
sales presentation, objection handling, because they can hear the other side of the conversation, say, "Oh, this
Right,
is remember, this is your response to that that FAQ item." So I think that's going to be a game changer.
Now, Chip, I want to get your opinion on something. I was in a conversation earlier this week with a group of closers. I'm actually shopping for closers right now for an offer that I've got going on, and as I was talking with this group of closers, it was very interesting because one of their biggest challenges was the very first step in a sales process, prospecting.
Yeah.
Prospecting. I mean, it is interesting to me as I've talked to several different business owners in the past few weeks, because my pain right now is a closer team. I keep hearing from people about, man, I need a lead gen. I need better prospecting. I need to utilize more AI. I need to do this. I need to do that. And one can't live without the other.
Yeah.
I recently turned off my lead generator because I was feeling overwhelmed with leads that I felt like were going cold because we weren't necessarily closing them efficiently enough. And so how do you help find the balance there, Chip, when you're working with a company that's trying to really develop and kind of pull away from founder-based sales, and actually implement a team? How do you help them create that balance of prospecting versus closing versus, even the colorful, presentation pieces and those types of things?
I think there's two answers to it, and I'll try to be brief with both, right? The first is your marketing has to be good. And the reason is that customers, especially because everybody's been trained, and look at all these new generations coming up, right? Who have lived with a cell phone in their hand and the internet as an indispensable device. They're used to researching, and they don't like talking to salespeople. They don't want to answer the phone. They don't set up their voicemail at work. They leave it full to make sure that nobody can reach them. And once you, I think, understand that and say, okay, I've got to find some level of persuasion to capture their attention early on, it sort of doesn't answer your question, but it shows that good marketing helps create the inbound buying demand, because the selling demand for you to artificially generate is hard. Okay.
It is.
But let's be specific, right? If you are out prospecting, how do you best do that? I think there's two aspects to it. And one is still sort of a marketing function, which is, I'm a knowledgeable salesperson. I have expertise in my area. Let me share with you my expertise to build up my trust and credibility to you without selling to you. That's really, I think, super vital. And then the second thing is how do you, if you are going to prospect, Garrick, do you want a cold call? No. I mean, especially if you have no interest. But there is some neat tools out there that help capture intent data. And they look at, hey, Todd is looking for inbound lead generators this week, right? And by subscribing to these tools, they're not cheap, but at least if you were to reach out then to Todd with, an outreach email that's, again, highly customized. This should not be mass email, right? It should be from Garrick to Todd and say, Todd, we do really neat things with lead generation. And I'm not going to signal that I know that you're interested in it, but we did this for this customer, and we wrote this really cool piece that shows you what kind of things you need to be thinking about 6 months from now in lead generation. Let me know if you have any questions, or love to have a dialogue. Let me know how, what you're looking for, how I can help. I've done everything but sell or even position my product. But if that's sort of what's necessary, I think, for people to have a genuine conversation that could lead to a purchase in the future.
Agreed. Garrick, that ties us directly into the AI, because so many people are saying, well, if I just could have the right AI tool generate all my leads, that's going to be amazing. Why is that not necessarily the solution, but how does AI help and assist with that lead flow and kind of feeding the funnel, so to speak?
Yeah, we have to acknowledge that right now we are in a moment of transition, because the frankly the cost of spam has gone down by an order of magnitude, and online discourse always adapts to that. Right.
Right.
So there are some areas and innovations going on inside of Web3 that I think are going to change some of this, and I think probably email and social media fundamentally is going to be different 5 years from now, based on
I agree with that.
on these technologies. Exactly how all this is going to turn out is still to be seen. But right now we are in an interesting area where, with a tool like Phantom Buster that can scrape a LinkedIn profile, your customization can go far, far beyond just hi name. It can and then I saw you work at XYZ for Z number of years. Really, like you can take everything that Phantom Buster scraped, put it into a spreadsheet, and that spreadsheet then can be the variables can be extracted to give to ChatGPT, saying, "Hey, write a message for someone whose bio says this, whose number of years is this,
brilliant.
for all that," and then it can draft up every email for your 50 prospects. Now, once again, we are entering an era where, how long is this going to last? What's where are we all heading with this? Because the permission to market to is just it's going to become more important. But the customization with AI is just on a whole another level. I think that a big part, though, of course, as the marketers and as business owners or sales teams, we have to take responsibility that we are not wasting the other person's time, and that we can put our stamp and our name behind what's being sent. There has to be that norm. But
and Garrick, that brings up a really good point, and this is something that I was involved in outsourcing and offshoring very early stage, I guess you could say 2006 and forward. And in the early, late 2008, 9 in there, 10, that's when we started really putting our foot on the pedal with automated dialing. And robo dialing became a thing, and chips,
I think that's where dial pad started.
That was where all the problems did start, I think, in terms of aggressive marketing mistakes that people were making, because they began to tarnish their brand with this massive robo-dial approach that was just annoying people. And you couldn't opt out, and your list was being sold, and the data was being just hoarded out everywhere. I say this, hopefully I don't get myself in trouble, but I remember the day where I would buy a lead list from somebody to plug into my dialer, and literally there were times where I would get a list from somebody that included first name, last name, city, state, zip, email, credit card number, like card on file data. Wow. It's all been deleted and purged long, long ago. But this was the type of problem that led to all the regulation we're hitting today. And so, as of I think August 31st, which is in a week from now, I'm glad, this is the only regulation I've actually kind of glad about, is that they're requiring text messaging marketing strategies to be tied to a registered number. Otherwise, it gets assumed as spam. And so thank goodness we're actually ahead of the curve a little bit to protect our last private place of existence, which is our text message, inbox, with a little bit of protection so that we're not getting spammed by a robodialer. We're actually being protected a little bit so that affecting tool doesn't get out of control like email and robodialing became. You know what I mean?
I've got a really high-tech solution for this.
Interesting. Do tell.
It's called direct mail. Okay. You take a brochure, something of interest, and a customized message. You put in this thing called an envelope, and this neat service called the U.S. Postal Service almost guarantees delivery.
Wow.
Now I'm joking, but to make the point, right? Everything old is new again. Look at how hard it is to get attention, and if you look at how little mail is used,
Yeah.
my view, and I try to use this whenever possible, is if you have something really unique or you're trying to crack the attention of the buyer,
Yeah.
direct mail, if the economics work. And frankly, the first thing about economics is I said U.S. Postal Service. That really doesn't work. Most businesses, the mail, nobody even checks their mailbox, right?
I know.
But a UPS or FedEx envelope, or even a U.S. mail sort of priority mail envelope, that is always going to end up on somebody's desk.
Right.
And it's novel because they didn't get any. They probably haven't gotten any in 3 weeks, 3 months.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, and it really is true. Garrick, where are you seeing that in play with your AI solutions type thing? I mean, is there a place for that?
Yeah.
It's just all about the opt-in, right?
Yeah, so actually, there's a fantastic book called the Dream 100 book from Dana Derricks, which the Dream 100 is much older than Dana Derricks, but that was at least where I got exposed to it. And in that, he talks about this concept of lumpy mail, where I love Chip's idea here, so I just want to build on top of it. Is you put in physical items inside of the envelope, so then they grab it, like they don't want to open it tomorrow. They want to say, what the hell is that?
Right.
And you can put in novelty items. I think actually the example they have in that book is he literally just puts a rock inside of it, and the rock has a fake key holder, and in the envelope the mail gives a story of how he was locked outside of his house, and he wasn't very neighborly, so like none of his neighbors, he felt comfortable going to them, so he had to go into the doggy door, and he would much rather have had this like little rock that had the key holder. But there's also a story in there about being a little more of a good neighbor, and it's it has these themes of cooperation instead of competition, and it was what he sent to all of the competitors in his space in order to build partnerships and relationships and affiliate deals.
Love it.
So there's a story baked into the object. And so where does AI go into this? I think that depending on how customized you want to get with that messaging, you can absolutely use AI in that all the same. But I think Chip's right on the money if you really want to crack the attention.
Just to finish the thought out,
the old is becoming new.
Well, I met a guy. He's in the direct mail space. He's a pioneer. He's been doing it for 40 years. He told me, believe it or not, a 2x4 with the appropriate number of stamps will get delivered as a piece of mail. And that was his way of getting people's attention, was a 2x4 with a message, written on it. And guess what? This is the best part of the story. Nobody ever responded to the first one, but when they got the second one, they're like, "Oh my God, what idiot would send me 2x4 pieces?"
Nobody ever responded to them.
And I think his message was something like, "If the first one didn't capture attention,
give me a call. Download my flyer here, whatever." Yeah, no, and that is fun. I think a prospecting episode of this would go a long ways and probably be a lot of fun to talk about. But there has to be the follow-up. There has to be the systems that catch the prospects. In closing, I bring this stuff up here because I want to remind everybody, if you look at this list of 5 absolutely critical pieces, you may have other pieces that aren't in these critical 5, and that's okay. But if you don't have at least this critical 5, you're really, really shortchanging yourself. You have to have these 5 pieces figured out. And if you don't have them figured out, find someone that does have it figured out. For example, closing. I think I'm actually a pretty decent closer. But the last thing I want to do is build my sales system on a founder-dependent sales closing system. That's the last thing I want to worry about on a day-to-day basis. I don't want to think about it. I want to, from the start, have an amazing sales closer system. I know I can generate good leads. My team does a great job. So prospecting's done. Lead qualifying, I can segment my leads. I know exactly what to do from there. It's a matter of the presentation and the closer, right? Like those are the pieces I need help with in my sales system. Why? Because I don't like to handle those as much as other people do. So if that's your thing, great. Find the stuff you're good at in-house it, find the stuff you're not good at, find people like Chip and Garrick to help you with these things. And there's a lot of other people you should be getting in touch with, because if your sales systems suck, guess what? Your marketing is going to feel like it's just throwing money down the drains. If you're not closing deals, you're going to run into problems, and that's that. So in closing, I want to hear from each of you, Chip, and let's start with Garrick. He's in the hot seat.
Yep.
Garrick, what is the last bit of advice you'd like to share with the world here on, because we got the whole world watching. What are the last bits of advice you would suggest in developing and enhancing their sales systems?
I think I want to build on top of something you said before. Really the theme of what's being put there is that you can't do it alone. If you try to overhaul your entire system, it might be crystal clear inside your mind, but if it's not clear inside the people who's running it, their mind, sure, they might have a checklist, and that goes a long way. But if they're not seeing it the way that you're seeing it, they're not going to execute it on the way that you would want to execute it. And so co-building it with your team so they have a level of ownership goes a long way. Now, of course, you want to make sure that standards is being hit.
Right.
But I think that there is a lot of wisdom in co-creating your idea sales process so that other people can own it. And when it comes to implementing AI, the way that I recommend people is that they find a champion inside of their teams and say, there are some amazing tools out here. Here's a heaven that's going to, sell them on it. Here's a heaven if we implement it. Here's what it's going to mean to you, to your, future career, to the company. It's going to be amazing. Here's a hell if we don't. Robots going to take our jobs. We're going to be, we're going to be behind the competition. All these problems. We're going to lag. Give them the heaven and hell, and then send them off to the races, and have them go out, find the right tools, figure out how to update the process, and then just bring it back to you. So then that the team really owns it.
Love it.
I'll close on that.
No, I that's great advice. Great advice. Chip, talk to us, man. What is the last bit you think people should know about developing their sales systems?
I think I loved how, Todd, you've been bringing up, first of all, Garrett, great answer, right? And you were hitting on all the things I was mentally thinking about as Todd was talking about this, but I think it still also comes back to the root issue. And I love how Todd's been using the term founder-led sales, because that's my next big blog post, and it's something that's got stuck in my craw. And it's not because it's not needed. It's just something you need to stop doing as quickly as possible.
Right.
The reason you have to stop doing it as quickly as possible is no one else in your organization is learning from it and from the process. If you're the only one doing it, and you've put yourself at that nexus where you can't do anything else, no matter how good you are at your sales, and you've got this pendulum swinging, selling, service delivery, or your product, selling, service delivery.
Right.
And how do you get off that roller coaster? And I think there's two things that come to mind, and they sort of touch on what Garrett was talking about. And the first is that understand that your people will only be able to do about 70% at their best of what you can do as the founder. And that's okay. Yeah. You just have to design your business to acknowledge that. But the second thing is that's not an excuse for mediocrity. Right. So really good systems, really finding out how to make those people's jobs better, and find out what they're really good at and what's needed in that sales role, so that, maybe they're not the best, most technical guy, but they really know how to take care of a customer and get questions answered and play project manager. That's an awesome skill. That's a great skill for a salesperson. And I haven't said anything about persuasion, right? Or the person's a great subject matter expert. They don't have to be a great salesperson if Garrett comes in and is saying, hey, look, I'm looking to buy your AI SaaS tool. And you can operate at his expert capacity because you really know what you're talking about. That's credibility to your company. And each salesperson is going to also be a little bit different, and that's okay.
Love that. What a great forum. I love panel discussions where there's just value pouring out of every participant. And I really appreciate you two being here today with me. And I just, in wrapping this up, I just want to mention, one of the great places to get information like what you've heard today is from the podcast network. We have, Chip was a guest on my podcast. The Gas podcast is called the Growth and Scaling Podcast. And the Growth and Scaling Podcast is a place, it's a resource. It's a tool that I offer up for free. I interview literally amazing people like Chip. Garrick will get you on there. This podcast is the place where you can go for free to capture insights as to how people have grown and scaled their operations. We're talking to people who are at minimum that 5 million to 200 million revenue benchmarks. They've been through the trenches. They are in the trenches. They are growing and scaling just like you are. If you want to know what to do next and get the insights that these founders share, check out this link below, links.thegaspodcast.com. Subscribe. You can watch it on YouTube. You listen to it on Spotify, anywhere you listen to podcasts. It's there. And these episodes are amazing. Like I listen to them all the time because I actually, I'm not even kidding. I re-listened to the interviews I did because I'm like, that was some of the best insight I've ever, that was really great stuff. And so I challenge all of you, if you're really in growth and scaling mode, and if today's conversation was useful to you at all, in terms of learning, today was sales processes. Next week is going to be something different. Next week is our whole goal is to provide value so that you can build and grow your business in a way that benefits you, benefits your clients, and makes you a better business owner. Because if you're not operating at a high level, you're just going to go out of business. And we don't like seeing people go out of business. We like seeing people grow and scale. So that's my mission. That's my vision. And for those of you watching, good luck growing and scaling. We are here to help when you need us. Leave comments below. Connect with Garrick and Chip on LinkedIn if you haven't done so already. And make sure that you're checking out their content because I know they're active. I know they're engaging all the time. Let's build and grow everybody as we try to build and grow our own stuff. Thanks for being here today. And I appreciate you guys being here to join me. We'll catch you on the next one.
Thanks, Todd. This has been great. Thanks.